I want to look at with you some suggestions on balancing better with all the stress happening. And let me remind you, as you think, pardon me, as you think about the exercise that you just did, that you were probably focusing in on the very thing you brought over to work on. Because whatever this was for you, it sort of came up as more than other things came up. So perhaps it's the biggie for you. And what I want to say, and I may probably repeat this again, but my request of you is to be gentle and compassionate for yourself. Be gentle and compassionate because, you know, we're all working to refine ourselves, and it is like sandpaper, you know, in a way, it is. But then we could also think of it kind of like a diamond in the rough, and we're becoming beautiful. We're being shifted and changed. We are changing ourselves so that we can channel more light, like a diamond that's being shaped and, you know, cut and polished. So what can we do to be more comfortable with all these energies happening right now? Because hopefully by now, within this teaching, you may begin to believe or see that everything that's happening is right. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's not wrong at all. And in fact, it's very important that it is happening. And it's a very big privilege, again, a privilege to be alive right now. To be able to have these experiences that are helping to refine us and helping us grow. I feel people can grow much faster right now than many, many other lifetimes. So be kind to yourself. You're going through a lot. That bottom of the barrel is not so easy to clean out. So, how can we each be more comfortable within ourselves in the light of this work we're doing and in light of the society we live in and the culture of the time on our planet right now? So one of the most important things to help you to be more comfortable are your attitudes and your beliefs. I mean, there's nothing more important than that. And if you look at this like, oh God, the world's going down the drain, it's going to be really tough for you if you see it that way. If you see the world, you know, going to pot, not the type you smoke, but you know, the type that's not so great, it's just going to be really hard for you. So beginning now to believe this is right. Hey, wow, this is a privilege that I'm here. You know, gosh, I'm really lucky to be alive right now. If you can begin to conceive of that, it will help you so much to be more comfortable. Maybe, for instance, it will help you not to be so angry about anything happening, whatever that may be. I know I have people around me, and sometimes they'll talk about how stupid other people are. And they're irritated, you know, oh, they're so stupid. Oh, they drive like crap, they're so horrible. And, you know, I just think, yeah, you're making it ever so much worse for yourself. So, when you look at what's going on in your life, you look at how what's happening right now is affecting you, know that you have the power, the creative power to make it better, to feel better, to be happier, to be lighter. And I use lighter a lot because I think of it in contrasting with heavy. And I mean, none of us are in a great mood every day, but some of us more than others. But it's, you know, you still have that creative power to improve your life. So one of the most important things, remember when we were talking about how hard these energy changes are on your physical body? So start putting extra focus on your body. It's very important during this cusp period because people are dying because their bodies cannot adjust to these energy changes. So these are just things we know anyway, but just the common things like sleep, the foods you eat, movement, be involved with movement of some sort, nature, getting out in nature. Nature is so giving. And you know, when you go for a walk or a hike or something, everything you encounter is alive and is conscious of you and is giving to you. Everything, the rocks, the trees, the dirt itself, it's aware of you and it is giving to you. I mean, you know, some of us feel lonely and we're so not alone, you know. Another thing you can do is nurture yourself. And to me, that means do things like you would do for a little baby. You know, babies like to be rocked and rubbed and patted. And I mean, get a massage now and then. Go to a spa and do whatever. Get in the hot tub and the bubbles and the whatever good stuff. Getting in the water, period, to me, oh gosh, so great. I'm not a great swimmer, but I'm a great, I guess you would call it sloshing around. I'm a great slosher, not so much a great swimmer, but I love the water. Now, this is something I hope you will really do. Put your hands on your body and send yourself love and healing, just like you would be doing for someone else. Touch your body lovingly and send healing. It will help you so much. If you're hurting, touch that pain and send love and healing. Thank your body for what it does for you. Think of your body now like a pet you have who is so faithful to you and so giving. your body just gives and gives and gives. And we sometimes take good care, sometimes we ignore. And it would be like having a beloved pet and you don't take care of them. You don't help them. Now, there are other things too you can do that will help you during this time period, but body stuff will really lay the foundation for you to be happier, feel better, things to go better. Because the Aquarian energy is so much about the power of the group, it's very helpful for almost everybody. My partner may be an exception because he does not like groups, but for almost everybody, and I even choose to believe even him, it would help. You know, I know better than he does, right? So be part of a meaningful or an enjoyable group. It will really add to your life. This is a time when we all need support, and being part of the right group can help you get that support and also give that support. Now, this is another thing. Reevaluate your use of time, because, I mean, all this, I mean, these are common things we know, but do we do them, you know? It's like, so look at your schedules, look at your use of time. Are you being kind to yourself? Are you just running yourself ragged? It's very important how you use time, what you do with it. I have trouble setting boundaries. I am a very, very poor boundary setter. And one of the things I do is answer the phone when I should not answer the phone. And I get into talking to people, particularly some people who like to talk a lot on the phone. And, you know, that is not a good use of time. It's okay once in a while, but sometimes it's your time for you. And being sensitive to that. So reevaluate what you're doing with your time. Some people think and say time is the only thing we're given while we're here. I mean, then we're not here, but then time takes a different form. But while we're here, time is the only thing we're really given. Okay, now, what are your priorities? This is an excellent time to redefine them because the energies are changing. And perhaps you've been super interested in this over here. Well, now you may find yourself beginning to be interested in that over there instead. So go with that, trust it. It's like the energies are changing, and it is right and correct for you to change. And to change your life, and, you know, give yourself permission for that. Now, this next one I really like, but participate and play. A lot of us feel like when we've grown up, we don't need to play anymore. And humans never outgrow their need for play. Age has nothing to do with it. And if you don't play, well, what's the obvious thing if you don't play? You're not having fun. I mean, you're not having enough fun if you don't play. So, pay attention to the environment you're creating for yourself. I used to be so neat and clean and orderly, and now it's like, wow, what happened? It's like I am not so neat and clean and orderly. But that disorder, that lack of cleanliness, has a certain energy, and that energy pulls on me. When I create order, there is a different energy that, for me anyway, gives to me. I think some people can be in any kind of environment, but you know, it's interesting, when the Dalai Lama travels, people go with him, and one of the things they do, they go ahead of him and they clean wherever he's going to stay. They get in there and they lift the energy. Sometimes I get in a stir where I just want to clean, and I'm just cleaning away and cleaning away, you know, and it feels good, and then my environment feels good. It really changes the energy. It lifts the energy. Now, let's look at your spirituality, because of course that is going to have a tremendous effect on you in terms of how you are faring during this time. And I don't want you to become so spiritual. This is a saying, I like it. I didn't invent it. I don't want you to become so spiritual that you're no earthly good. And some people get there, like where, you know, they're just above everything, but not in a healthy way. They're above everything in a way of rejecting the earth. And my sense is that there is no level or thing that is more spiritual than any other thing. Like, the dirt on the floor is just as spiritual as the candles burning in the church. You know, it's like, so we find the spirit within things. We do. But it's always there. So when I talk about your spirituality, I'm not talking about you separating yourself from life or separating yourself from the earth. And the more earthy you are, you can be more, even then, more spiritual. So one of the things is, do you have a spiritual practice? And that really means, do you take time to, if not meditate, at least contemplate? To be open to, one of my therapists used to call it log time, and he meant like sitting on a log. Mm-hmm. You know, the old-fashioned thing of you just go out and sit on a stump or a log or something, and you don't do anything. You're just opening yourself. And part of what I'd like you to begin to learn how to do is to open your energy to the surrounding energies. Because whether we realize it or not, a lot of times we are blocking what's around us because we interpret it as not good. So we shut down to it. Don't want to let that in, don't want to let that in, you know, and the opposite's true, is that when you open your energy field, you become one with what is, and there is harmony and peace. Like when you're blocking the bad traffic in the afternoon when you're going home from work or something. You are really emphasizing the disharmony. You're making it bigger. So play some music you enjoy and look at people. You know, I mean, it really freaks people out if you act friendly toward them when you're driving. But, you know, be with it. Like, I remember one time, oh, this was so embarrassing. I was at a traffic light, and this man came up and, you know, pulled in the lane right next to me. And I kind of saw him over there, so I just did it without thinking. I reached over and I locked my car. And then he looked at me and he reached over and he locked his car. And it was kind of funny. It was embarrassing to me. I thought, oh my God, what did I do? And it was very telling that I was blocking this out, or I assumed he might not be a safe person, you know? And it was good for me that he did that. And it was, as I said, it was embarrassing. So now I try to lock my car ahead. No, I shouldn't say that. Not in front of people. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm kidding. But no, I mean, well, we don't need to get into that. But, so, a spiritual practice means, first of all, a lot of what I'm talking about are your attitudes and your beliefs. Are you one with the world, the earth, what's going on? Are you one with it? And it's not so horrible to be one with it. It's more harmonious than to be in judgment of it, or trying to block it, or being so spiritual that you're no earthly good. That just is not harmonious. So a spiritual practice can be making time to contemplate or meditate. It has to do with something like keeping a journal. It's very healing to write and to let your inner self talk. Your inner self is always doing things for you, and it hardly ever gets to say anything. You know, it doesn't get its say, but you use it all the time, and you want things from it, you expect things from it, but you don't want to listen to it. So journal and let your inner self talk. Just get into a flow of consciousness. You'll be surprised what you say to yourself. I have a theory that when you're writing like that, that flow of consciousness writing, at some point you begin to tell yourself exactly what you need to hear or what you need to know. It's like giving yourself guidance, and it's right on. I think also maybe it's not just your inner wisdom you're tapping, but it could be one of your teachers coming through to you. So journaling is a very powerful tool to help you balance your energy. Prayer. I think everyone believes in prayer, but then when it comes to doing it, maybe they don't really believe in prayer. It may seem kind of silly to them, or, well, who are you talking to anyway? Or you really think God pays enough attention, he can have enough attention and focus to pay attention to each one of us? And yes, the beings that have created the earth and who have created humanity care about us. And we each have helpers on the inner that we are very special to them. And they do pay attention to us, and they care about us. And when you pray, my sense of prayer, like a lot of people say, well, who are you praying to? For me, prayer is to my higher self. I pray to my higher self, and sometimes to my teachers. And I ask them too for things, or I thank them for things. Be careful that in prayer you're not just asking for stuff. Be careful that you are giving thanks for your life. Like, I don't do this every night anymore. I used to, and it would really be a good thing for me to get back to, but I used to every single night when I started to fall asleep. I would give thanks for everything I could think of that I was thankful for. And it's just such a great energy to fall asleep to. I mean, it gives you this warm, cozy, safe feeling when you do that. So it's good to give thanks, because when you give thanks, it increases what you have. But it's also good to give thanks because I'm sure our inner teachers enjoy the thanks we give them, just like we all enjoy when people thank us for something or recognize us in some way. And it's not ego in a negative way. It's just a sense of being appreciated. So giving thanks, it's really a very powerful thing to do to help you balance your energy. Prayer is real. It really changes things. I've had so many things happen. Once I was in a workshop, and the theme of the workshop was that we live a miraculous life. And so one of the assignments in the workshop, was to go off by yourself for a while. And it was out in the woods, the workshop was, and stuff. Go off by yourself and make a list of all the miracles that have happened to you. And a lot of people don't believe in miracles, but they happen all the time if you're like paying attention or watching or sensing, And so I started writing, and I wrote down, I think, 32 miracles, and it was like, wow, that's great. But paying attention, it's so important to acknowledge the miracles and to be able to see them. So another thing, find studies or teachers that you enjoy. It's very, very good for you to have a teacher or a study that you are involved in, that you identify with. And shop around. If you're not finding that person that you identify with, keep looking, keep checking people out. This, I think, is one of the most important things of all, what I'm going to say next. Create a largeness of being. And what that means is you live your life so that you are energetically so large that you can accept everything. You can be with life in a peaceful way because you are large. You can integrate all the spiritual studies you've done you can integrate all the beliefs and the different paths you've walked. You can bring it all together in a meaningful way when you live a large life. And living a large life helps you to not be judgmental, to not be narrow and tight. So the largeness of being is just, I don't think there's anything more important than that. And that's an attitude. It goes back to an attitude that you accept life. And one of the things my teacher taught us, I was in a small group kind of like this with my teacher that I studied with. I studied with her for 7 years. And I met her when I was 24 and she was in her 70s. And I studied with her for 7 years until she died. And she was pretty judgmental, like she was strict. And, you know, I'm sure in some other lifetime she had one of those long poles and she'd hit people over the head with it. You know, like if they weren't meditating well enough, or if they were daydreaming, and you know, she could tell it, whack, she'd get them. She was like that. I mean, she was strict, and she would get upset with us about certain things and all. And yet, when she was dying, she sent word back to us from the hospital, our little group, and she wanted us to know that she had been shown that everyone was doing the best that they knew how to do. That everyone was, even the serial killer. I mean, it's hard to think of it, but everyone is doing the best they know how to do. And that's part of living a large life, is if you hold that, then you have compassion for people, and you can support others from where they're at. And so that all ties into no judgment. Judgment is poison. It's a killer. It just destroys energy. Judgment. And judgment meaning finding something that you feel is wrong. It's not saying, oh, this apple looks good. You know, it's not, that's more discrimination. And so judgment is looking down on something, or seeing it as not okay or not right. And remember when early on today I said, very, very important, and this again goes back to beliefs and attitudes, whether we realize it and whether we're brave enough to know it, everything's right. Everything is whatever in your life that you hate, there is some rightness about it. It's there to give you something. It's a gift. There's just, everything is right. And your life is perfect. It is the perfect reflection of what you need. And when you learn from it, it keeps getting better and better. So now the last thing I want to say about spirituality, well, not really the last, but almost the last, is to find a way to be of service to others. You don't have to be a spiritual teacher or anything. There's some way for you to be of service. And when you are living that, it changes your life. When you take advantage of an opportunity to be of service to others, it's harder to be depressed. It's harder to shrink in and get very self-centered and feel sorry for yourself, and or feel bad about life in general when you begin to be of service to others, because you begin to see that a lot of people have a harder time than you do, or there's something, it's like you cannot give to anyone without that gift also coming to you, because it comes through you. So you receive it before the other person even does when you're giving of yourself. So that is a very meaningful thing, to be of service. And it doesn't just have to be to people. Be of service to animals, or the plant kingdom, or the earth herself, or, you know, it's not just about human to human. All right, so we're going to do a handout. Love handouts. I do love handouts. I don't know why. I should have been a school teacher. Okay, here we go. This ties in with your spirituality. That's when I said, oh, it's almost the last thing. If you need to stand up and stretch or something, do that. Okay, here we go. I'll just let you pass them around. You guys are doing good. You're hanging in there. Thank you. Okay, so you can see what this is about. This is a fun thing to do, but it's also very meaningful, is to create an altar. And if you have to hide it somewhere, that's okay. Just have one. Some people are afraid to have their altar, you know, where anyone could see it. Well, maybe you want it to be private too, you know, that could be. But when I was first getting into metaphysical stuff, in fact, it was really before I started getting into metaphysical stuff, but I was getting ready to get into it. And in retrospect, you know, I could see the changes happening in me, that I was getting ready. I met a lady. I went on vacation and I met this woman, and I was having all these weird things happening, you know, like poltergeist kind of stuff around my house. Lights were getting turned on and off, and it was actually the switch would get flipped up and down, you know, it wasn't just wiring or something. And the doorbell would ring, nobody'd be there. You know, just all this stuff happened. One night I was getting ready for bed and I was winding up those old clocks you had to wind up, and my husband was sitting across from me. I should say husband at the time. He was sitting across from me, and I was talking to him, and we're winding this thing up. I set the clock down, moved my hand, and the clock went flying across the room. So, you know, all this stuff was happening. And what I realized in retrospect, okay, what I thought was happening is that someone in spirit was trying to communicate with me. And so I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida, and that is a big spiritualist center. And the spiritualists are the people who have seances. So I thought, someone's trying to communicate with me. So my husband and I said, let's go to a seance. Somebody's, you know, trying to get a message through. We went to seance after seance and never got a message. And we'd walk in, we were like 24, and everybody else in there was 80, and they'd look at us. It was funny. But anyway, what was really happening is I was opening up psychically, and it was creating those energies. It wasn't a ghost or anybody, or it was Hillary opening up. But anyway, so I'm not quite sure what that has to do with creating an altar, but I know it ties in somehow. So when you create your altar, that's going to give you an anchor. In a real physical way, it gives you an anchor in your environment. And you can create more than one altar. Like, I like outside altars as well as inside altars. Like in an outside altar, you can use rocks and other things, you know, in your garden or wherever. But this is really more about your inside altar. So a good way, this is just a good little formula to create an altar. So gather up things that represent what is meaningful to you. And it will begin to lift you when you're down. You can go sit by your altar and you're going to feel better. Sit by your altar and you'll start to actually feel the energy of your altar, because it will begin to build. And it will get stronger and stronger. And I lived in a house one time, and I mean, I had altars everywhere. I had an altar in my kitchen window, and I had all these things that were about the power of the feminine, you know, in the kitchen window. And so when I was doing the dishes, I could look at them, and I would get into it, you know, and it became so strong that when I was getting into my altar in the kitchen, I could feel the energy coming out of my altar and coming up and coming into me. I could literally feel it. It was happening. So your altar will grow and gather energy, and you can be in exchange with it. So put something that represents light, and generally I would say a candle, and you light it when you sit by it. Then whatever inspires you, because your altar will lift your energy because it inspires you. Have something that represents what you're seeking. And when I say that, it might mean what you are trying to manifest, or it might just mean not so much a material thing, but it could be a state of being that you're trying to manifest. But put something on your altar that represents what you're seeking, and something that connects you to ancestors or your heritage. And even if you hate your parents, you know, find someone in your lineage that you admire or want to be like or something. And put something on your altar that represents your lineage, your heritage. I wish I knew more about my heritage. My great-grandfather came over from the from the old country, and he wouldn't talk about his family or anything. And so I think I felt he had a very hard life, and he left home. But in retrospect now, we're finding out a little more about him, and maybe his family sent him here for safety. He was Jewish, and when he was a young man, they sent him here. And his sister also came to the U.S., and I think their parents were trying to protect them. Um, what brings healing and peace to you? Put it on something that represents that, put it on the altar. Or the world, something that brings peace to the world, put it on your altar. I like to have things, something that represents the earth. And sometimes it's even a marble. I have a marble that has the continents and stuff on it. And I have a most beautiful little like figurine of an angel, and it's the bust of the angel, and she's holding out her hands like this, and she's holding the earth and the world in her hands. And you know, I put that on my altar to represent healing coming to the earth, because on my altar I'm seeking to create not just peace for myself, but for the world. And then what connects you to your inner teachers or teachings that you are into. And then keep your altar current, because sometimes your interests change or your goals change, something like that. Change your altar. And just meditate and sit by your altar and become receptive. And you'll be surprised how powerful it is. And it's so good for you. I wonder if that's no telling. Anyway, you'll be surprised how powerful it becomes. And it gives you, I think of it as an anchor. And I mean, you can't even walk by it without thinking something good. All right, now I want to open our time for discussion, questions and answers, anything you want to do with this time we have left until 4. How is all this settling in for you? What are you getting out of it? But what questions do you have, if any?
I have questions, but from the very beginning. From
Okay,
the first party.
that's
the
fine.
First party, yeah, that was a party. That was a part. I wrote down a few questions like that.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure I have some of my answers. And anyway, when you were talking about, I really love that image. I don't know how it's called in English, of that circle.
Oh, yeah,
That
time.
down the stairs. Well, time.
Oh, the slinky, yeah, the slinky. They're called slinkies, yeah.
And at the time of the question you were talking about, you know, the sun is there, the planets are going around and around, and we know that the universe is expanding.
Yeah.
And so, does it matter for the image, or do you think it matters at all if that spiral is going up or down, as long as we're not, that we understand we're not at exactly the same place as the cycle is? Does it matter up and down, and you know what I mean, big and small?
Yeah.
Does it matter at all, or is it?
In the long run, I don't think it matters, because again, it has to do with cycles. Like, it's a natural thing for there to be a cycle of growth, and then I think it's called fallow. Isn't that what it is when a field's not planted or anything? In farming, it's really important to let a field go fallow off and on, or the earth becomes worn out. And it has, if it's fallow, it enriches itself, because I guess, I don't know why, but I'm not sure, I don't need to guess why. But you need the same thing. And so you have certain cycles of forward movement. You have certain cycles in which you are appearing to stand still. And you also have certain cycles in which you slip backwards. And it's all part of just the cyclic nature of consciousness and life. And so, if we really believe there's nothing wrong, and I do totally believe that there's nothing wrong, I don't understand why everything's right. Some things, like, I don't get why that's right at all. But I have come to accept it is right. I just don't have the wisdom to understand why it's right. Then if I'm slipping backwards some, it's right. It's okay. And my real feeling is that it is a kind of predictable part of, like, forward, still, back, forward, still, back, like almost like a dance step. And it's super important not to judge ourselves and not to freak out, because we think we're not doing so well or doing so great. You may be just simply in a fallow period. And remember that in a fallow period, okay, what's visible looks dead, and what's invisible is being enriched. And I know I used to teach and travel, and I traveled and taught and lectured and things so much that I used to keep a suitcase open on my bedroom floor. I had a big bedroom then. And I had a suitcase open, and I would keep it packed, and I would, when I got back from a trip, I'd wash things and put them back in the suitcase, and then I'd be back off again soon for another trip. And that was a lot of forward movement. And then I got into a place in which I felt like I wasn't teaching anything new. I mean, I just kept teaching the same things over and over. Not every lecture was the same, but I had like umpty-ump number of lectures, and I kept repeating them. And it got to the point that I said to myself, and this is how I felt, I've got to stop this. I've got to reach something different or new. I can't keep repeating this and repeating it. And so, and some other things happened too that, it's a story for another day, but other things happened too. And what I ended up doing was I quit traveling. And I pulled back from a part of my work. And so that was, it appeared to be a fallow period, but I think it was necessary. I really believe it was necessary, and that I was enriching some level of myself during that time period. And I mean, I don't want to do that now again. Maybe I'm getting too old to want to do that. I don't know. I don't want to do that exactly. But I would very much like to get the teaching out to people, because I feel like the teaching can help people or help the world or something, And so,
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
So when on this list of the qualities of the Piscean and Aquarian ages, so one of the things that's helped me learn, how consciousness moves is thinking about it electromagnetically, that it's positive and negative charges,
Yeah.
and that when
Yeah.
the path has both of those charges, energy flows.
Yes,
and
exactly.
When one is too much, it doesn't.
Okay.
It blocks it in different ways. And so, how, if that is that metaphor, I guess. I mean, I think of it more than a metaphor, but is that applicable in the Aquarian age where it's, I mean, is
Oh,
it
yeah.
more of a, it's gonna just move like, because it's more balanced and integrated?
I think
How
so.
does-
I
how
feel
does
that,
the charges work?
like, see, that appears like polarity, or it is, in a way, it is polarity. Yes,
Can I add to that question? Because it's very similar to mine, is the Piscean age sounds very negative to me, and the Aquarius extremely positive, maybe because it's how I function.
yeah,
So it was a little bit the same thing. Is it still Aquarius is gonna be? Is it? There must be some negative
yes,
to make it work too. So
yes, yes,
that's-
yes. And the thing about polarities ending, it doesn't mean there won't be opposites. There will always be opposites, always. But what we'll come to realize is that the opposites are working together. They're not really opposed to each other, and they're not blocking each other. They're supporting each other. And so there'll still be opposites. But polarization means we think they're pulling against each other. So on one level they are, but on another level they're supporting each other. Like the movement couldn't happen without both the positive and negative poles. Am I making sense?
That's what I was imagining.
Yeah, so it's maybe when we say polarity ends, what we mean is a certain view of polarity that has to do with the feeling that these energies do not work together, or that these energies don't work with each other. And that is what I think of as the end of polarity. But they're still opposite. I hope I'm making sense. Yeah, yeah, okay. Did I answer your question okay? Okay.
The image I have no idea if it's physically what's happening, but it's those trains that don't touch the ground because they have there are
Oh,
magnets.
yeah, 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 it holds
So
them,
they
yeah.
support the train with that. That's what came to me. So that makes more sense, because when I read those lists, for me the age before, I'm not going to say Piscean again.
Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid it, but it sounds like so restrictive.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and to go in
Well,
total freedom can be very unsettling as well. So.
yeah, like, okay, so the Piscean age is much more restrictive than the Aquarian age, and one is not better than the other. That's what's important to see, because they're like the polarities that energize each other. Like if we didn't have something to bounce off of, we wouldn't go anywhere. We wouldn't get anywhere. It's like,
Electricity wouldn't flow.
pardon me?
Electricity wouldn't flow.
Yes,
Consciousness
exactly.
wouldn't flow.
Yes, exactly. So I need to be more careful when I'm teaching about this, that I state that more clearly, that one is not better than the other. They are different, but again, somehow they're supporting each other. Oh, I know what it is, kind of. I mean, it's sort of like what you were saying about electromagnetism and the train being just above the track and all that. It's like going from one opposite to another creates movement. Yeah. So,
what are the other beings doing, hoping for, supporting? How are they interacting to support this transition?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You mean the inner beings, like the inner teachers and
Yeah.
the higher beings
Yeah.
and such?
Non-human, non-physical.
Okay. My sense is that they are guardians of the earth. Some of them, no, I mean, not all other beings are, but there are certain beings on the other side of life who are guardians of the earth. And those who are working with the earth, I feel, are helping to manifest this shift in energy. And energy comes into our planet from beyond our planet. And that's what astrology shows us. Astrology is a map showing the energies that are coming into the planet from beyond our planet. And those energies are different from each other. Sometimes this one energy is coming in stronger, another time this over here is coming in stronger. But the beings on the other side, those who work with the earth, I feel, are helping to stimulate these changes that are happening. I feel they are. And it's very important to ask for what you want or need. A lot of times your teachers would do stuff for you, but you don't ask for it. Pardon me. I mean, it's kind of funny because we just assume, oh, they know what I need. Oh, I don't have to ask for anything because after all, they're taking care of me and they know what I need. It's like, nope, you've got to, well, I mean, you are protected, you are. But on another level, you need to ask for what you want or what you need. It will stimulate their energy to be able to give it to you. And I mean, remember when I said prayer is so amazing? So I had this experience not too long ago. I had all my jewelry in a particular box and I could not find it. I looked everywhere for it, everywhere. I mean, you know, and I knew that I had moved it because I was reorganizing some shelves and I knew I'd moved it. That's all I knew. I couldn't remember where I put it. I looked in my partner's closet. I looked everywhere I could think and I just couldn't find it. So then I started thinking someone stole it, that someone had come in and stolen my jewelry. I didn't know for sure, but I just thought, it must be stolen. It's not here. So, and I thought that for a long time. So then one day I thought, and I asked my teachers, I said, if my jewelry is here, please help me find my jewelry. The very next day, I'm not kidding you, the next day, I was standing by this chest I have, and there's a certain upper part of the chest that's secret that you can't see from looking at the chest. You know, it's like where you could put valuable stuff and things because it's hidden. I was just standing by that chest and I just had the urge to open that. I thought, you know, I haven't looked in there in a long, long time. And so I unlocked that part, opened it up, voila, my jewelry. The very next day after I asked for help. Isn't that wild? And listen, I looked till I was ragged, but I didn't ask for help. Isn't that something when you think of it? And my teachers must have been up there laughing at me like, oh, she doesn't know where her jewelry is. But she's not asking. I mean, you know, it matters. So it's amazing. It really is. So we still have a little time.
I'm going back to I'm gonna have to say it again, Piscean and Aquarius.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
in the Aquarius, to me, feels so natural and so logic and so, it just feels like it's my personality embraced totally this new information. So how come how come so many people on Earth have such a hard time seeing this? And, you know, I sometimes don't understand why people don't want to change.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And so,
yeah.
how can I make peace with that thought? And,
Oh, yeah.
And how can I support those folks on their path?
Yes, okay.
If
Yeah,
I can do anything
yeah.
with it or not.
Well, even if people are miserable, they know to some degree what they're dealing with. I mean, it's like, you don't have enough money. Well, you know you don't have enough money. That's your problem. I mean, you recognize the condition you're in. When things start changing, you don't know where they're going. Like, there's a mystery to change. Like, things start reforming, but there's a certain part of the reforming in which we don't know what the outcome's going to be. And it feels like a lot of people, I'm not sure if it's most people, but a lot of people would rather know what to expect, even if it's bad, than to be open to something they don't know about, even if it could be better. It's like people are attached to knowing what to expect.
It's comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's strange, but we're afraid of the unknown. It's sort of like being afraid of the dark, because you don't know what's in the dark. That's why we're afraid of it. You know, maybe the boogeyman's in there standing right by you and you don't know it, you know, and so, and also a lot of people have no faith that things will get better. So when they're changing, they assume they'll only get worse, because they don't believe. It goes back to beliefs and attitudes. They don't believe things can get better. It's very sad when people are stuck in those mindsets because they make it true for themselves. It's really sad. And in a way, I think that's what we're doing through our beliefs, is to help move the collective out of being stuck in believing nothing can be better and can only be worse. So we're in there energizing, no, things can be better and they will be better. They can be and they will be.
And then eventually that'll hit critical mass. And
Yeah, it will. It will. It'll shift things around. Yeah. Now, I don't want to make the Aquarian cycle sound perfect, because nothing on the earth is perfect. But it is different than a lot of the collective mindset right now. And I mean, I hope I get to come in during that time and experience what it feels like. And It reminds me a little bit of Star Trek. You know, remember how they would go to certain planets and everything was like the Aquarian age or something? But then sooner or later something would happen where it wasn't as good as it looked or something. So you never know, you know, but nothing's perfect, but it is different. And I feel like the Aquarian cycle represents a big step forward in evolution for the planet. And so it may be one of the shifts, like changing gears in a car, where, you know, the circle's turning, but it rises up, and then it keeps turning and all, but, you know, it's rising up to a higher level. And the Aquarian cycle may be one of those boost up. It could be. Okay, well, so why don't we hold hands for a moment? Or is that safe? Do you feel safe in doing that? What do you feel? Okay, all right, let's hold hands for a moment.